It's a match that sounds too good to be true. The Last of Us, adapted into a TV series on HBO, being held by a combination of the original writer, Neil Druckmann, and Craig Mazin, the latter being the creator and writer of HBO's Chernobyl. Welcome to Watch Mojo, and today we're going to go through the top 10 things we need in HBO's The Last of Us.
Everyone barricaded themselves in their homes, and supplies started running low. That's when you saw what people are really capable of.
For this list, we'll be looking at what made both The Last of Us and Chernobyl such compelling pieces of entertainment, as well as what made previous video game adaptations successes or failures to see how HBO's The Last of Us can be the best it can possibly be.
Well, then I'm staying.
Ellie, we won't get another shot at this.
Number 10. The early years of the Outbreak. The one thing we don't want to see is for the series to be a one-to-one adaptation of Joel and Ellie's journey across the United States. That story is perfect as it is. Don't change it and don't remake it. Instead, for this premise, we're going to take a page from the Witcher Netflix series and propose that the TV series should be set before the events of the main game.
The number of confirmed deaths has passed 200. The governor has called a state of emergency.
There are hundreds and hundreds of bodies lining the streets.
The other reason why it would be ideal to focus on the early outbreak as opposed to Joel and Ellie's The Walking Dead-like journey is that it runs the risk of being compared to The Walking Dead, as opposed to its own thing. It would certainly raise tensions to see how society adapts to the cordyceps outbreak.
Look at that. Ration line hasn't opened yet. Must be running low again.
Number 9. Joel's missing years.
So I'll take one guess. The whole deal went south and the client made off with our pills. Is that about right?
The one downside in having the series be a prequel is that we're unlikely to see Ellie play a major role, though we will still have the second game to make up for that. That said, it would easily give Joel the screen time necessary to be further fleshed out and expand his backstory.
You have any idea what's going on out there?
I got some notion.
Holy shit. You got blood all over you.
It ain't mine. Let's just get out of here.
How did he deal with the death of Sarah during those early outbreak days? Why did he have a falling out with his brother Tommy that sent them to opposite ends of the United States? How did he end up crossing paths with both Tess and Marlene? The advantage of a Joel prequel is that we can also explore these fundamental relationships, intertwined within a grounded story of grieving over one's lost child.
Don't do this to me, babe. Don't do this to me, babe. Come on.
Number 8. More about the Fireflies.
You can still rise with us. Remember, when you're lost in the darkness, look for the light.
Almost immediately after the news broke about this project being in the works, HBO tweeted out a GIF of the Fireflies emblem, along with the motto, "Look for the light." This could indicate that we will find out more about how the Fireflies were founded, how they came into power in the midst of the cordyceps outbreak, and how they came into conflict with the US military.
Let's go find a firefly. We won't have to look very far.
There you go. Queen Firefly.
This would also mean that Marlene would have a more prominent role in the show, as she was one of the founding members of the group. Most importantly, this story arc could set the stage for a large-scale conflict between the Fireflies and US soldiers. With, clickers in the middle of the battlefield. No big deal, right? God, those things are terrifying. Number 7. Reflect modern-day outbreaks.
When he's in pain, and his sores stick to his gown when he soils himself 5 times a night. I've been looking after him. Where have you been?
I've been in the North and West Wing, where there are dozens of patients from Chernobyl exactly like him.
What made Chernobyl a masterpiece of television is that despite being based off the infamous 1986 accident, it was extremely relatable to the modern-day political landscape. It focused on the theme of the cost of lies, and how those in power tried to downplay and cover up the severity of the worst nuclear disaster in history.
You didn't see graphite.
I did.
You didn't. You didn't! Because it's not there!
Look to today, and it's impossible to escape the news of the coronavirus, and how various governments around the world have employed different ways to contain the outbreak. More importantly, how some have botched appropriate measures to contain the virus. Since we mentioned how this show may explain the origins of the Fireflies, perhaps distrust of the government was how they grew in numbers, or why vaccine tests failed. It's certainly possible to convey all of this within the lore of The Last of Us.
Swear to me that everything that you've said about the Fireflies is true.
I swear.
Every lie we tell incurs a debt to the truth. Sooner or later, that debt is paid.
Number 6. How the rest of the world has fared.
Push it.
We're okay. They can't see us.
The Last of Us was solely focused on what happened within the United States. From start to finish, we didn't hear as much of a peep as to what happened elsewhere in the world. Following up from our last entry, we know different nations have employed different ways to approach and contain the coronavirus. Maybe for this show, some nations were able to completely eradicate the infection. Maybe others are completely devoid of human life. Perhaps this can be an important piece of social commentary on the price of secrecy and patriotism in the face of a pandemic. There's certainly no right or wrong answer here, and that's what can lead to compelling storytelling.
There could be no doubt about the supremacy of the Soviet nuclear industry.
Oh, the KGB classified it as a state secret.
Number 5. Music by Gustavo Santaolalla.
Are you crying yet? That's pretty awesome.
This seems almost like a no-brainer. Gustavo Santaollalla's iconic score for The Last of Us perfectly captured the emotional beats of despair and heartbreak and the bittersweet beauty of a world reclaimed by nature. Outside of The Last of Us, Santaollalla's discography really speaks for itself. His most recent TV series credit was for the Netflix series Narcos Mexico. He also managed to snag a BAFTA for his score on The Motorcycle Diaries and an Academy Award for his work on Brokeback Mountain. Chernobyl's composer, Hilda Gunnartadía, who also won an Academy Award for Joker, would also be highly ideal should Santaolalla be unavailable. Number 4. More Marlene.
Even if you get her out of here, then what? How long before she's torn to pieces by a pack of clickers?
As we mentioned earlier, since it's possible the show could focus on the origins of the Fireflies, it would also mean that one of its founding members, Marlene, could have a lead role in the show. It would be the perfect opportunity considering her appearances in the game and comic series has been relatively sparse.
How do you know them?
I was close with his brother Tommy. Said if I was ever in a jam, I could rely on him.
What we do know is that she was supposedly really close with Ellie's mother, Anna, who apparently died within a day of giving birth to Ellie. Marlene made the promise to her dying friend that she would watch over her daughter.
I need you to know that I've kept my promise all these years. Despite everything that I was in charge of, I looked after her. I would have done anything for her, and at times
I mean, watching over an adoptive baby daughter and leading a revolution in a mushroom zombie-infested United States, there's a lot to work with here.
Well, I hear the military's been wiping you guys out.
You're right about that.
Number 3. Roles for Troy Baker and Ashley Johnson.
I'm sorry about your daughter, Joel, but I've lost people too.
You have no idea what loss is.
Whether or not Troy Baker ends up reprising his role as Joel remains to be seen, seeing as video game adaptations rarely, if ever, recast their voice actors into live-action roles. It's also impossible for Ashley Johnson to play Ellie, given that she's 36. But that doesn't mean they should be looked over by casting directors, as both of them have strong resumes of physical acting performances, even if Troy's is mostly motion capture. Plus, it would be an absolute sin if the original stars of the show weren't honoured in some way. In fact, the most ideal role to give to Ashley? She could be the one to play Ellie's mother, Anna.
I laser scanned Jane's body across all spectrums, so maybe I can just cycle back down to all the infrared channels.
Number 2. Ideal casting choices.
I don't know, maybe they had a map or something to tell us where they were going.
How far are we going to take this test?
As far as it needs to go.
I mean, we would love to see the cast of the game reprise their role in the show, especially seeing as many of them look their parts. Merle Dandridge as Marlene, Jeffrey Pierce as Tommy, and Annie Wershing as Tess. But there's always the risk of scheduling conflicts, so we have a few alternate options just in case. Obviously, some fans might say Hugh Jackman for Joel, but A-list Hollywood actors might be impossible for a TV series. So our short list of alternates for both Joel and Tommy, since they're brothers, would be Nikolai Coster-Waldau, Joel Edgerton, or Travis Fimmel. For Marlene, our shortlist would comprise of Simone Missick or Sonequa Martin Green. We tried alternatives for Tess, but honestly, Annie is just too perfect in that role to recast.
No, you don't, actually. I know things that Anthony doesn't know.
Before we continue, be sure to subscribe to our channel and ring the bell to get notified about our latest videos. You have the option to be notified for occasional videos or all of them. If you're on your phone, make sure you go into your settings and switch on notifications. Number 1. New complex characters from Neil Druckmann. It's no secret that what really made The Last of Us such an incredible story were its complex and fleshed out characters. So while we'd love to see characters like Joel, Marlene, Tommy, and Tess brought to life in this new live action series, we would also like to meet new characters in the world of this franchise. Look at it this way, there are always limitations with writing for pre-established characters, but Druckmann has proved that he's not shy about introducing new characters against fan expectations. Let's not forget that one Last of Us Part 2 trailer that only starred characters we had never seen before.
Clip her wings.
We also hope against hope that these new characters aren't just red shirts for the apocalypse either. Still, if Neil Druckmann and Craig Mazin can't get us emotionally attached to these characters, who else can?
It's Tommy's birthday, and that's all he wanted to do is just rent 2 Harleys and drive cross country.
Do you agree with our picks? Check out this other recent clip from WatchMojo and be sure to subscribe and ring the bell to be notified about our latest videos.